Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2019. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day weekend. I know we did. It was very relaxing, but we also have a lot to cover as well here in GrandSolarMinimumNews.com. Once again, we have the show laid out for you. And yeah, this one, this episode tonight will take the cake, folks. We are jam-packed with all kinds of climate news, worldwide headlines, and also a look at this week's weather as well, or what's to come. But here we are at the GrandSolarMinimum.com. Let's take a look at solar wind conditions for 29.5 kilometers per second with a density of 11.4. Now over here at SPACEWEATHER.com, we are looking at sunspot 2741, still hanging on, and 2740 is no longer a threat for any kind of solar flares. We are still sitting at 74 days for spotless days for the year. Let's take a better look, and I do appreciate the effort that Mari puts into these little movie clips for us here. But these are the two sunspots right now that we're looking at. AR 2740 is on the far right, and of course AR 2741 is on the left, and still kind of crackling with minor B-class flares. Now, they're not expecting anything hardcore from this, but these CMEs here, these filament releases, we are possibly going to see some kind of effect from these CMEs that we're looking at here on SDO. We will see efforts probably somewhere, actually, they're saying May 15th and May 16th, there is possible chance for a G1 geomagnetic storm. And also isolated periods of G2 as well will be a part of this situation. So we'll circle the calendars here for the 15th and 16th of May. We're going to see G1 geomagnetic storms with also the possibility of some times where we see conditions at G2. But what we're looking at here, this explosion, 3 and possibly 4 CMEs are en route to Earth following the series of explosions near AR 2741. The most potent so far occurred on May 12th when a filament of magnetism surrounding the sunspot became unstable and erupted. This blast zone was more than 220,000 kilometers in diameter. So pretty large situation here. Similar eruptions on May 10th, 11th, 13th combined with this one to produce a train of faint coronal mass ejections heading in our direction. So that is why we will see the possibility for at least G1s, but if not, periods of favorable conditions for a G2 storm. Let's take a look at the SpaceWeather.com section of GrandSolarMinimum.com, I should say. Our space weather edition. And as we look at this solar X-ray flux, all the activities kind of quieted down. The KP indices, the 24-hour max is at a 2, and they were as low as a 1 earlier. And let's take a look at the SDO in motion as we already have. Check this out right here. Well, that's the CME that we're possibly going to see the G2 storms. Now watch this here at the end. A coronal hole explodes at the very end of this. So very interesting, and we will have to wait to see what kind of effects we get from this. As you can see here at the tail clip, and let's see what the timestamp is on this. So this was about 15 UTC time today, where we see this image of a coronal hole kind of just a burst at that point. So we will not only did we catch something really great on the SDO, the helio viewer, but here at the tail end of this, it looks like we have a coronal hole situation. So we will keep an eye on this, possibly just add to the G1 conditions, and this is probably why they're thinking we could see strong periods of G2, especially after watching that mini explosion here of this coronal hole. Now let's take a look at our star on all angles of this. Of course, the missing section is the stereo B, which we no longer have contact with. But really, these guys, when I say these guys, this sunspot region, AR 2740 and AR 2741, is putting on a show right now, considering that we are in a solar minimum. So interesting activity from our star at this point in time. We will definitely monitor what may come tomorrow, the updates for any kind of geomagnetic activity. A possibility we could see an uptick of maybe a G3 from the looks of things here in the star. We will keep an eye on this as well. And taking a look at the TSI, we are now sitting at 1360.628. So we had that little dip, and we have rebounded to right around the normal readings that we usually get for TSI readings, but it is staying away from the 1360.7 value. So continue to watch that. TSI going up and down. Right now it's maintaining in the 0.6 values like it usually does. All right, so let's go ahead and check out some GSM World News. Yeah, many drivers left in disbelief. Why is that? Well, according to this news story here in Blandford, Massachusetts, winter weather in May made a difficult commute. Yeah, we don't want that. Thanks. Made for a difficult commute this Mother's Day. Many drivers who hit the road Sunday were surprised to see snow in Blandford, adding stress to one of the busiest traffic days of the year. The heaviest of traffic began Sunday afternoon and continued into the early evening, which is why drivers were encouraged to plan ahead this Mother's Day weekend. And with unexpected snowfall in the western hills of Berkshire on Sunday, caused quite a bit of problems along the Mass Pike. I saw a guy commenting on Joe Bastardi's post yesterday, and he put, "We have snowfall here in the Berkshires, LOL." Again, this was not expected. Daniel Thomas Dunphy, a cashier at Blandford Services Plaza Golf Station, spoke with 22 News about the sudden impact of the wintry weather. He says the whole parking lot area was very busy, filled with cars. Everyone was getting kind of mad at the slowness, and it was just really busy. Talking about the wintry mix of rain, sleet, and snow caused several accidents on I-90, and to ensure safety, the speed limit on the Mass Pike had been reduced to 30 miles per hour from the border of New York to mile marker 44 to West Springfield. One driver traveling back to New York from visiting mother-in-law and holiday told 22 News he anticipated some heavy traffic on the Mass Pike, but not for the inch or so of snow. So just more evidence that we are still seeing winter-like conditions here in the Northeast and other parts of this country as of May 12th. Some accusation. Now, of course, this didn't leave anybody stranded or anything like that, but still something to talk about this late in the year as far as snowfall, and we shouldn't be seeing any at all at this point, especially on the East Coast. And I'll get to tonight's weather too, as far as that goes, talking about what we shouldn't see at this time of year. Tropical Cyclone Anne, moving towards northern Queensland of Australia. It's a Category 1, so it's a weaker storm at this point. Continue to move west-northwest northern Queensland. The cyclone is expected across the northeast tropical coast of Queensland on Wednesday morning, May 15th, most likely as a Category 1 system. So, not that these are to look at and not be worried about, but it's something to mention anyway. The good news is that we won't see anything major. Gales with gusts of about 62 miles an hour may develop about the coast and adjacent island areas in between Lockhart River and Port Douglas early on Wednesday morning, and may extend north Cape York later on Wednesday as the cyclone approaches the coast. As the cyclone crosses the coast, the storm tide may occur between Lockhart River and Cape Tribulation. Large waves may produce minor flooding along the foreshore. People living in the area may be affected by this flooding and should take measures to protect their property as much as possible and be prepared to help their neighbors. Areas of heavy rain which may lead to flash flooding are likely to develop along the coast in ranges about Lockhart River and Ingram during Tuesday night and are likely to persist through Wednesday. A flood watch has been issued for coastal catchments between Cooktown and Ingham. People between Cape York and Port Douglas should consider what action they will need if the cyclone threat increases. Taking a look at tropical tidbits as you see the storm approaching land and really dying down as it makes landfall. So it's a lot more impressive off of the east coast of this storm at this point right now, but not much punch once it does cross into land. Thanks to the Watchers.news once again for their wonderful reporting, letting us know what is happening right now. Record May rainfall in Paris, France. That's right, folks. We were just talking about snow, and now we're talking about rainfall here. Almost an entire monthly average of rainfall fell on the French capital, Paris, from Friday to Saturday, May 10th to the 11th. According to the French Weather Channel, Paris Metro recorded 1.272 inches of rain in that period. The average rainfall for the whole month of May is 2.24 inches of rain. In total, since the beginning of the month, nearly 3.14 inches of rain was recorded in the city. So they are already above their monthly average, and we're not even to the midway point for May. Combs-la-Ville in Seine-et-Marne department recorded an all-time high for May. Rainfall on Saturday was around 2.34 inches in just 24 hours. So once again, seeing that huge swing in weather from cold to warm to cold to warm. We were talking about snow in France, May snow in France. Now we're talking about record rainfall for France in just a week's time. So Old Man Winter said hello and then goodbye just as fast. Cosmic ray influx, folks. That's what caused these record rainfalls to happen in areas that aren't used to it. Plenty of water vapor in the atmosphere and quickly falling back down to the ground as precipitation. Rain is saturating the soil right now, creating a cooling effect, like we always say here, I guess, right? All right, deadly blizzard sweeps through Mongolia. At least 4 people have been killed after a severe blizzard swept through the province of southern Mongolia on May 11th and May 12th. Heavy snowfall has also affected other Mongolian provinces. According to the provincial government report issued late May 12th, rescues of the province's emergency management department have found alive 37 of the 41 herders who were lost in the snowstorm. So that's very fortunate at that point. But the remaining 4 people, including 2 members of a family, the province, they feel have frozen to death during the snowstorm on Saturday night. Number of livestock animals were also lost in this storm as well, folks. Just another example of winter's grip here. This is just above. We're in Asia over here seeing snow in May. Leave a link, of course, on the website here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. Moving right along, we're staying overseas. Talking about extremely heavy rain hits Yonaguni, Okinawa, Japan. 14.4 inches in 6 hours. Now that's a little more extreme than 2.74 in La France. But anyway, a stationary front dumped extremely heavy rain on the island of Yonaguni, Japan's southernmost province of Okinawa, on Monday, May 13, 2019. You may remember that Mr. Miyagi was from Okinawa as well. An evacuation advisory was issued for the entire island. The Japan Meteorological Agency said the town located in the district of Tokurono received around 15.72 inches of rain in 24 hours on May 13th. The agency said an extremely heavy level of 14.4 inches of rain fell in just over 6 hours, 10.8 inches in a 3-hour period, and that is the heaviest since detailed records began in 2003. In just 1 hour, May 13th, the district received 4.31 inches. This is the highest amount of rain ever recorded in the month of May. So for 1 hour, 4.31 inches takes the cake, folks. This much rainfall is seen on a scale of 1 to every 50 years, said the JMA. And they might be downplaying that a little bit. The agency urged residents to be on guard against landslides and flooding. It is believed that some homes were flooded and that several roads in the town were cut off by flooding, and officials are trying to check the damage. A town official that spoke to the Mancini Shimbun by telephone said that torrential rain on an unprecedented level began falling about 4 JST on May 13th. The town has received over 17.71 inches of rain since May 12th. Jeez. I mean, I'm trying to put my head around that 17.7 inches of rain. Tonight, we're getting a pretty heavy dose of rain. We're only supposed to get a half inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain. And that's a lot. The ground's already saturated. It's puddling out there. But that's nothing compared to 17.71 inches of rain, folks. That's a large, enormous amount. And once again, we can add another country, another area of the planet to that list of heavy flooding we've seen so far this year across Europe and Africa, Japan, parts of Australia, India. Iraq has flooded out pretty bad this year, so the parts of Iran, India, I think I already said India, Indonesia, and of course the United States. It's not just in one part of the world, folks. This is everywhere. Let's take a look at another article. Oh, this is a Fanny update. Cyclone Fanny hits death toll of 64 now. Deadliest cyclone since 1999, super cyclone in India. So this cyclone that made landfall in May 3rd, 2019. Unfortunately, the death toll rose to 64. It's the strongest cyclone to hit since 1999, super cyclone. Special Relief Commissioner's situation report confirmed that 39 people died in Puri district alone. This is 18 more than what the government had declared earlier. Out of the 64 people that have passed away, 25 died due to the wall collapse. 20 were crushed by uprooted trees, electric poles, and hoardings, and 6 died after being buried under collapsed roofs. This cause of over 13 deaths is yet to be asserted. This makes Fanny the deadliest cyclone since 1999, which killed an estimated 10,405. So leaps and bounds of the severity of the cyclones that have hit this region. 1999, the super cyclone, 10,000 people perished, only 64. 64 is enough, but I'm just saying to see that this is only the second deadliest cyclone. So that tells you right there that storms are not getting stronger because of man-made global warming, not in this region anyway. In fact, this is the actual opposite. When you say we've lost 64 people compared to losing 10,000 people in 99, I've said we've done a better job at preparing and getting people ready for these types of storms to get out of the way. So unfortunately, 64 lives did pay the price. But all in all, when you look at the last major cyclone that hit this area, this was an improvement as far as unnecessary deaths that happened because of the storm. Again, we'll leave the link in our website. Thanks once again to Watchers.news. Eruption in Mount Agung ejects ash up to about 18,000 feet, I believe. 18,000 feet. This was on May 12th, 14:29 UTC time. Gotta love the black and white. The eruption lasted 2 minutes and 16 seconds with a maximum amplitude of 25 millimeters. Aviation code has been raised to red. The society remained calm and there is no need to evacuate. According to a spokesperson of the National Disaster Mitigation Agency, Bali remains safe and comfortable. And it says the airport there remains open as normal as well. The volcanic level remains at 3 with a danger zone of 2.5 miles. So it's almost like they're saying nothing to see here, folks. Taking a look at some footage here, Watchers.news. They always do a wonderful job at finding all of this great footage throughout YouTube and Twitter as well. A little geological summary of the area. You can take a look at this as well on the Watchers.news. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right. So before we start, hang on a second. All right. Wonderful. So here we go. We get to start with the fun stuff, guys. This is hilarious. This is a tweet from Crazio Cortez. And she says, this is a technique of the GOP to take dry humor and sarcasm and literally fact check it. like the world ending in 12 years thing, you'd have to have the social intelligence of a sea sponge to think it's literal. But the GOP is basically Dwight from The Office, so who knows? All right, hold on a second. Excuse me. I like Dwight, first of all, from The Office, but bear with me, folks. I want to go ahead and I want to play the video real quick as well. What she said. This is funny because, you know, basically she's, oh, come on, you couldn't have possibly taken me serious, right? Could we?
And I think that the part of it that is generational is that millennials and people and, you know, Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up. And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is, your biggest issue is, how are we going to pay for it?
All right, let's back this up a little bit and I'll turn the mic up a little more.
It's going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. After us are looking up. And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is, your biggest issue is...
All right, I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound like someone who's being humorous. She first made this claim to pitch her Green New Deal pitch for her, you know, policy and everything like that, and all this scaremongering that she did. And then she goes out here on Martin Luther King Day, or a Martin Luther King type celebration, I believe. And, you know, basically just rambles on for like 3 minutes about nothing, talking about 3,000 people died last year. And she wasn't really clear about what the heck she was talking about. But more than once has she talked about this 12-year thing. I mean, remember, guys, she was live on social media, I believe it was Twitter, eating popcorn and drinking wine and, you know, telling people, yeah, the world's going to end in 12 years if we don't get serious about climate change. So I haven't had Asshole of the Week in a while, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wins Asshole of the Week for sure. It's Monday, I know, it just started, but nobody tops this one. Backpedaling her statements about to even suggest that this Green New Deal was going to improve climate change conditions or fight them off. That's the first lie. The second lie is that the world was ending in 12 years if we didn't do something drastic to address climate change. That's lie number 2. And now, lie number 3 comes on Mother's Day, saying that she was just using dry humor and sarcasm. And well, no, your interview online on Twitter, you told an individual who asked about, do we really have 12 years for climate change to end the world? And your response was, yes, if we don't do something now about taking on climate change and cutting back emissions, we will be facing a catastrophic like situation in 12 years. And now that people have pretty much made fun of you left and right, even your own party is starting to shy away from you now. So you can't come out here. Look, your following may be dumb enough to follow this tweet that you made the other night. But I promise you, those in the middle and those on the right are not stupid. All right? You're not just going to sweep it under the rug like it never happened, just like they do with, you know, Hillary Clinton's email scandal. That's been swept under the rug. Nothing to see here. She just scrubbed out 30,000 emails. Nothing happened. Same thing here. Oh, I was just joking. If you believe that, then you should be a something. Basically is what she's saying. This woman is crazy. And that's another thing too. She's also had 2 SEC complaints about campaigning and campaign money being funneled illegally and moved around illegally, and yet nothing's happened about that. It's sad people like this are even allowed to be in office. Again, I'd like to know how the heck she got elected. I feel like that something happened and there was an error in the computer system. They put her name on the ballot somehow. I just don't understand how this woman got elected. I mean, she's such a spineless person. She's one of the worst examples of a Democrat in Congress. She can't even back up what she says. She backs down easily when faced with harsh criticism. Republican or Democrat, I don't want people like that that are going to flip and flop. Especially ones who are in charge of making up laws for the country. Especially ones like this, where this woman here has no idea what she's talking about, but yet she wants to convince the world and the United States that her policy is going to combat climate change. Yet it's going to cost a lot of money from American taxpayers, but hey, don't worry about that. Who cares about what it's going to take? If we don't do it, we're going to die. That's what AOC is saying. And now she's like, oh, I was just kidding. We're not going to die. I just want to take your tax money. Thanks for coming. That's basically what she's doing right now. Whatever. We've seen this song and dance before from the Democrats. It's really not that surprising. It's funny to me. This was a humorous event here. Thank you, Anthony Watts, for pointing this out. I'm sure other people have as well. But again, just funny to see her backpedaling from her 12-year into the world. And I love the artwork here that was used for her. It's on What's Up With That when you go there, so you'll see that as well. Here is another article from What's Up With That. Does NASA's study confirm global warming? This kind of touches back on I covered this before, where we showed the different temperatures from each satellite, and the RSS is a lead for the GIS temp and the ECMWF as well. And then you've got AIRS. And this study is trying to pass off that the AIRS, according to the AIRS study, that we are seeing warming because of what the AIRS satellite has reported. Now, I'm bringing this back up because I want people to remember that if there was also another article about the AIRS satellite. Now, mind you, it's the highest reading on this list. Before I get into that, it says here, which climate data set is the right one? Interesting, the HAD Crude 4 data set, which is managed by a team in the United Kingdom, uses most of the same temperature data from the GIS temp uses from NOAA, Global Historic Climate Network. Among the major data sets, HAD Crude 4 shows the lowest temperature increase, one that's nearly identical to the UAH. All right, so you think that they've got something here. There's a baseline down here, right? Critics of the NASA's GIS temp have long said its higher temperature trend is due to scientists applying their own special sauce at the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies, where Schmidt had the head of the climate division. But what is even more suspect is the fact that while the first time Schmidt had dared to compare his overheated GIS temp data set to a satellite data set, he chose the AIRS data, which only has 15 years worth of data, whereas RSS and UAH have 30 years of data. Okay. Aside from that, we already know that the AIRS satellite only gets 100% accurate readings when there is zero clouds over the area it's trying to measure the temperature. Let me repeat that. The only time that the AIRS satellite system reports it reports temperatures on 100% accuracy is when there is zero cloud coverage over the area. In fact, there's a paper that says it cannot consistently read temperatures during cloud coverage. So how is NASA going to pick the one satellite that gives the most unreliable information. And there's, you can go either way. The bottom line is, if people out there want to use the RSS and the UAH, I think that's the closest thing to do, and split the difference. Honestly, that's where I'm at with this. But when I hear that the AIRS satellite system does not measure through cloud coverage, and this study is based from that satellite reading, and they're saying, well, that's how we're confirming the warming. It's from that satellite data. Because look at it, 0.24. Never mind the fact that it only predicts or reports accurately when there's 0% cloud coverage. Now, we all know that we've talked about this on this channel several times. There is way more cloud coverage on this planet than there ever has been, probably, in a long, long time. I mean, not since the last minimum, the minimum before that. I'm talking hundreds of years ago. I mean, the skies, to me, when I look at the skies today, guys, I remember the paintings that you see online, the images that people painted back in the 1600s and the 1700s. That's what I see. So it's just amazing to me that NASA would cling to the one data set that had the most unreliable measurements. And that was a satellite that could not get an accurate reading through cloud coverage. But yet these other satellites were good enough. And when I look at the difference between the UAH and the AIRS, that's staggering. That's almost a 0.06 difference. All right, and that's a lot in this temperature world, okay? That's a lot. So I say if you pick between RSS and the UAH, you're probably on a safe bet to follow that information right there in between. Just to be on the safe side. Honestly, I wouldn't trust any device that does not accurately read temperatures unless it's clear sky. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you trust that information, especially when you know cloud coverage is on the rise? I don't know. Rant over, but I definitely wanted to point that out tonight. I saw that on What's Up With That. Thank you once again, guys. It's kind of like going over. I went over it before a couple weeks ago. All right, so from one of my favorite AM stations in the whole wide world, 700 WLW News in Cincinnati, Ohio, carbon dioxide levels hit new high at 415 parts per million, highest in human history. And I wanted to read a little bit of this. This is the first time in human history our planet's atmosphere has had more than 415 parts per million CO2. Not just in recorded history, not just since the invention of agriculture 10,000 years, since before modern humans existed millions years ago. Okay. Carbon dioxide levels have not been in the atmosphere this high for more than 800,000 years. All right. Follow along. Continuing here, scientists say carbon dioxide is the primary driver for global climate change. Boo, disinfo. Which can trap solar radiation in the atmosphere. Oh, is that how it works? CO2 is now trapping the solar radiation in the atmosphere. Gotcha. Burning fossil fuels such as coal, oil, gas release CO2, methane, and other types of greenhouse gases, which are responsible for the planet's warming. We don't know a planet like this, says one individual here. Look at the CO2 just going up, 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 up. Okay, so it is safe to say the current rate increase holds steady for another 2 decades. Global CO2 will be well past 450 parts per million in the 2038. Yes, it will. Absolutely. Because by then we are going to have a crap load of volcanoes going off. And between that time, yes, you're right. Absolutely. A VEI 7, I believe is what John Casey said, or higher, between 2017 and 2047. Somewhere in that area we could see a major catastrophe event from an earthquake and volcanoes. Now, what's the point of all this, you say? Well, hang on a second, and I'll show you real quick. Because the record situation of the global anomaly, the temperature, I should say, from Mr. Dr. Roy Spencer, who does this work. I want to show you the warming that we've experienced. Very quickly here. He's been busy on his website. I'm trying to get to that here while I've got the other screen on here. Let's go back to the mix. All right, here we go. So let's talk about this for a minute. Zoom this in a little bit so I can move it over. All right, so let's get the handy dandy arrow. Let's just focus on, okay, so I'll show you guys the years right down here at the bottom. Let me zoom this in a little bit more. All right, so here's the years right down here at the bottom, guys. First of all, we can see that April 2019 is at 0.44. So here is 19, 18, 17, 16. We're going to focus right here in the 16, okay? That is where we have our peak, okay? Right here. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because we've seen, obviously, a decline in the temperatures. Let me turn this off for a minute. So we've seen a decline in temperatures from the UAH. All right, here's where we are right now. So this is where we were, and right here at the top where you're looking at this arrow is 402 parts per million on the CO2 levels. Right now, you just heard from 700 WLW's mainstream disinfo organization, I should say. We are at the highest record levels of CO2 in our atmosphere in the last 800,000 years. But yet our temperature globally is lower than what it was in 2016, and we are 13 parts per million higher today than we were 3 years ago when the temperature was warmer, about 0.44 degrees Celsius warmer than what it is today. Okay? So that's one thing I want to mention, is that the CO2 is the highest of ever recorded in 800,000 years. They're going back on ice cores, obviously. So let's back that up a little bit. So basically, this article is also admitting that this planet has seen CO2 levels in its atmosphere like this before mankind. Do you know where I'm going with this, folks? Do you know where I'm going with this? Okay, so if we've had this high of CO2 in the atmosphere before mankind, according to this article that I just read here on 700 WLW. Let's read it again. Let's see. Since before modern humans' existence, even millions of years ago, not just they're saying that this is the first time in human history our planet's atmosphere has had more than 415 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. Since before millions of years ago. But at least 800,000 years, we haven't seen it this high. So we didn't have an industrial age. We didn't have humans driving cars or airplanes or burning coal to stay warm in the winter. Nope. I doubt we barely had much of a population back then in the dark ages, the caveman days. Highly doubt they lived past the age of 23 on a normal. So, again, contradicting itself, and this is how stupid some of these news organizations are. They don't understand what they're talking about. Oh, this is the highest ever, and it's all because modern humans are causing temperatures to rise, but this happened last 800,000 years ago where the CO2 is really high. But there was no humans on the planet to cause the CO2 to go up, so help me out here. Again, these people are not going to be able to keep their facts straight when it comes to this kind of science. They don't understand science, because if they did, they wouldn't even write this article. You are my favorite radio station of all time, AM-wise, guys, but this is stupid. And whoever is writing this stuff should be fired. Does not represent the radio station. All right. So this is kind of a red flag situation here, guys. I'm not one that likes to mix news from outside of weather or GSM. But this is kind of important. Last week I watched the stock market crash, and it gained some on Friday, about 64 points. It lost over 600, I believe, somewhere in that area. Today, we are talking about trade wars. The Dow ends at 618 points down today. Why? The escalation of trade tensions between the U.S. and China has wiped more than $1 trillion away from the global market. So, tit for tat tariffs, $60 billion on all U.S. goods, claims China. All right, you know what? Forget you and your ad blocker. I really didn't need this story. I just wanted to bring up a point. Now that we know that we have this big bad trade war going on right now, could it be possible that President Trump just wants people to buy American-made and grow American-made? Is it possible that Trump is teaching these nations to take care of its own people in case of a natural disaster? Is it possible to buy local? And the problem with that theory is that a lot of these bigger chains out there, I won't name any names, I don't want any copyrights or any more censorship on my channel, but there's a lot of big name grocery markets out there that's driven out the local farm markets. So we've got a lot of work to do here to wind it back. And I've said this before a couple of weeks ago, our government needs to do a better job at protecting our farmers, reimbursing them for situations like what we're going through right now. All right, so let's keep this in mind. We got $1 trillion wiped away from the global market today. Check this Google headline alert that Mari got the other day. Okay? This was food crisis. Here's the headlines. Faced with economic and food shortage crisis in Cuba, North Korea is facing food crisis and maximum pressure by U.S. military, of course. UN body concern over North Korea's food crisis. Cuba begins widespread rationing due to food shortages. Palestinian food aid threatened by a seriously funding crisis. More Cuba blames Trump for economic crisis for the food. Now, this is what they're going to do. They're going to blame Trump, but I got to point to all this. Venezuela fell from the richest country in South America to now a starving food crisis country as well. Yemen war, citizens struggle to buy food in Yemen. Do you see where I'm going with this, people? The list is long. And so some of the media, instead of talking about the real cause of the food crisis, which is worldwide crop failure, happening at almost every level right now in the agriculture department. So you want to tack on a trade war on top of what the climate is doing to our agriculture business. Either which way you look at it, folks, this is a dangerous time. And I really wanted to talk about like the stress of finally figuring out ways to get it across people about how we need to really take what we say on this channel seriously, and others alike. Adapt 2030, Ice Age Farmer, those guys are always talking about food crises and food security. And then we look at the stock market today, and we see this picture here being thrown around everywhere. Stock market has fallen beneath 25,000. It's tumbling, folks. So food prices are going up because of this trade war, and you've got flooding all over the Midwest, some of the northern plains, and now in the far south. Drenching rains happening now in the northeast. That's going to delay planting. Soil temperatures here are nowhere where they need to be for crops to even flourish or even begin. It's time we start taking this serious, guys. Not just for the weather side of this, but you got to pay attention to what's going on in this stuff right here too. When the headlines are talking about food crises almost everywhere in the world, when are we going to start feeling the effects too when it comes to prices? And if they keep doing this trade war stuff. So we've got the climate to fight with food, and now we've got our world governments to fight when it comes to food prices. This can't be more in your face, glaringly important. To learn how to grow, to learn how to fish, to learn how to hunt, to learn how to be self-sustainable. I know Mario and I talk about we're going to start doing this, and we're going to try. We really are, folks. We really need to get on the ball of start showing prepping videos. Maybe even just create a channel that's for prepping only of the grand solar minimum. You know, I don't know. We'll have to figure something out, because to me, and I don't mean to raise alarm, tomorrow the markets, you know how it is, they correct themselves within 2 or 3 days when we see this kind of a loss. I hope that's what's happening tomorrow. But when you combine this right here and the food crisis that's going on around the world, it doesn't feel like things are going to be an easy ride between now and the end of this minimum period that we're going through right now. We'll be right back, folks.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so let's check out some weather headlines. Ontario, I wanted to bring this up because it's warmer in February than it is now. A few people out there on the internet and social media have reported that we are watching Canada warm at faster paces than any other part of the world. And that's absolutely false. So false. Fake news, in fact. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Ontario, cool and showery. Days lead into a long weekend. Check out the storm system that they're talking about. This is the tail end of, I believe, what we're dealing with here in the Northeast. Cool and wet weather sends us back into March timing. You know, I saw this report as well, too, on the Weather Channel, talking about how some of these temperatures that we're seeing across the country are typical March 25th temperatures, not May 13th. Slow improvements through midweek. A threat for shower lingers. Lake Ontario, Erie flooding concerns, just like we have them here in Western New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So more of the same, guys. The same stuff that we're going through here in the United States is happening in Canada. Cooler temperatures than average. Lots of precipitation. Huge low pressure systems that are going up into Canada as well. Take a look at this. Hail world records. The biggest hail and heaviest, deadliest hail. Yeah, right here. Also, I want to mention too that we saw hail, really big hail as well in Mexico. But this here is the largest hail ever fallen from the sky. The largest diameter hailstone ever recorded was July 23rd of 2010. 8 inches in diameter. That is the size of a freaking volleyball, folks. But here we have the hailstone had a circumference of 18.62 and weighed almost 2 pounds. Insane. So we've seen some pretty large hailstones throughout history. And it'd be interesting to see what parts of these minimums that we've seen these large hail events, have they been during periods of time during of minimums. And that's something we can easily go back and look. 2009, 1998. Here we have this hail event in 2010. This one in 2003 was probably a freak event. But the one in 2010 definitely lines up. And if we had any in the late 90s and the late 80s, again, coming out of a minimum, as well as in 59. So hail is one of the things that we've seen a lot of in the last 3 years, and a lot bigger too, as well. Let's move right along here with the weather headlines. All right. Yeah, nor'easter to bring chilly rain, cold temperatures to the Northeast. We are living it right now, folks. I can tell you it's no joke. Take a look at the national radar. Let's zoom this up a little bit. Let's go ahead and move up. That is where we are dealing with right now in upstate New York. This low pressure system started dropping rain on us about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Really started to pick up around 5 and is moving its way through New York and the rest of the Northeast as we speak. Right now, we are expecting around 3/4 of an inch of rain from this rainfall right now. But let's go ahead and take a look at the story here on weather.com. Says here, May nor'easter will bring rain, wind, and even some high terrain snow in the northeast early this week, piling on what has already been a miserable start to the spring for parts of that region. Rather vigorous southward plunge of jet stream has moved into the northeast, and an area of low pressure with onshore northeasterly winds will move northeastward along the east coast through Tuesday. Gusty northeasterly winds are the sole requirement for an east coast low pressure system to be classified a nor'easter, no matter how strong or weak this system becomes. The most of the impacts from this nor'easter will be minor. Through the weather conditions are going to be miserable, which, colder temperatures, high winds, heavy rain, that's raw late February, early March type situation here. Rain, cold wind, snow, just a mixed bag of everything. Wet snow already being reported at Mount Snow, Vermont Monday, according to National Weather Service. In Albany, the elevation there is at 3,600 feet. Says some flakes can be rolled out in the Berkshires and Worcester Hills of Massachusetts and the Litchfield Hills of Connecticut as well. Berkshires has already seen snow from the low pressure system on Sunday. Elsewhere, chilly rain is a forecast. High temperatures holding 10 to 20 degrees below average in much of the northeast through Tuesday. That means many locations will rise from the 40s and 50s during the daytime. Again, these are mid-March temperatures, not mid-May. Miserable weather has been the theme so far this spring in the Northeast. One notable example is Islip, New York, on Long Island, which recorded a measurable rain of 18 consecutive days from April 20th to May 7th. Numerous other cities have also had a large number of rainy days this spring. I mentioned this before on the one of our forecasts here from GFS, talking about we've seen rain events, snow events in the northern plains and the Midwest. We have seen rain and flooding events across the South. I said the Northeast and the Northwest is next, and already there is documentation of the situation of heavy rainfall that has fallen since April 20th. Let's take a look at the GFS. It's a mess right now. High pressure is right behind this system that's moving out, this nor'easter, but some spotty showers across Illinois into Ohio. They intensify by Thursday. And the Northeast getting some light showers, moderate rain showers in the Tennessee Valley. And then this low pressure system kicks up around the 18th, like previously told in the earlier broadcast. In the Northwest, you're going to get in on some of this action, while this other low pressure system moves across the northern plains into the Midwest itself, but bringing showers and rain. And watch out, Northern California by May 19th in the Northwest, heavy rain is in the forecast for a couple of days out there, and it's just an absolute mess from Thursday through Monday, and another system moves through. Look at this. 2 days later in Northern California, you're going to get some heavy rain and some snow in the mountain area. So watch out for that, folks. Already some flooding happening from earlier in the year, and now we are picking up where we left off just a few weeks ago. The meantime, a low pressure system pushing moisture across the Midwest from the Ohio Valley all the way up into the Northeast by the 22nd. And this low pressure system kind of hangs around the Midwest for quite some time and brings heavy rain in the Northeast before it finally races off. And by May 23rd, that's about the lightest activity we'll see is May 23rd, where high pressure just dominates the entire United States. Again, this is more than a week out, guys, so these don't become very reliable. This is just an idea of the pattern. And right now, we are in this direct pattern of lots of rainfall and moisture in between these minor little breaks. Now, this is substantial to me because in this forecast, the South, really after Sunday of this week, you will start to, especially Texas and Louisiana, you guys will start to see a little bit of dry time here. After this storm moves out on the 21st, all right, that storm right there will stay in the Midwest and the Atlantic states into the Northeast. But some dry time from the 21st of May all the way. Chance for some slight showers here, but nothing major. More light showers on the way as well. But look at this. May 28th. So we have over a week of dry weather in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, the Northwest, the Northern Plains, and the Midwest, and parts of the Northeast will experience the moisture at this point. Taking a look at El Nino, which right now is an El No-No, if you ask me. Take a look at these temperatures. These are pathetic. Below the threshold for an El Nino. So right now we are called an El Neutral. That means the neutral. No El Nino conditions at this time, 0.44. Now, I know this will probably go back above the 0.5 threshold, but still, considering a lot of people, especially Noah, who are saying that we will see El Nino conditions through the summer into the fall, I don't know how long that's going to hold, honestly. I'd be shocked. Wind chills, of course, to expect here in the Northeast. It's cold right now, guys, considering this time of year. And believe it or not, we're experiencing a nor'easter on top of it. So that's why we're seeing wind chill readings. And this snow and ice map is starting to melt, especially for the snow parts. Still snow falling parts in the northern hemisphere, folks. But it is slowly diminishing as we speak. And that's going to do it for me as far as what I have to report tonight. I'm going to bring Mari in to say hello to our chat. All the folks out there, supporters who've been there for a long time. Mari, how the heck is it going?
Well, Jake, I can't believe you used the A word on our channel like that. I just told Ian in the chat how proper we were, and then you go and drop the A word.
I haven't said asshole in a while, but, you know.
Jake.
Well, were you talking about Al Gore or asshole? Which A word were you talking about?
I'm just joking. You gotta, let one rip every once in a while, right, Jake? We got our good friend Ian in here, and I told him I'd give him a very special shout out. He did a super chat just because he was asking what you were drinking, because you want a refreshing beverage. And I'm honest with everyone. He thought it was vodka, and I explained it was diet root beer. So
Diet cream soda.
Oh, is it cream soda?
Let me ask you something. Do I sound like Harry Carey or something? I mean, why has it got to be vodka? I mean, I could see it if I was talking like this during the broadcast. But I wasn't speaking like this at all. Actually, I sound like Gilbert Gnarly just now.
You are so full of
I'm in a good mood tonight for a Monday.
If anyone knew you in person, they'd understand.
They'd run.
You're crazy. So anyway, Ian wants you to get off the aspartame. All right? Just stop it, Jake.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
We care about you here. It's not just me. This is your GSM community.
Gotta move because it's gonna get cold. Gotta move because the ice. Gotta stop drinking the aspartame.
Be on the video camera
I'll
for
stop.
this, so he
All
can
right, let me.
your. There, now you got your reaction. This is what Ian says aspartame causes: decreased vision, headache, migraines, severe depression, epileptic seizures. Easy for me to say.
Well, I always
MS.
thought that a severe depression was just from being a Browns fan, but go ahead.
Chronic fatigue, burst effects,
Diabetes.
including mental retardation and liberalism.
Well, we both know that I don't suffer from...
Suffer.
Apparently I do. Okay. Well played, Ian. Well played.
Forget that, Jake.
Guess
okay.
I'm changing my card. What is it? To blue now? Is that what it is?
What?
I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, anyway, we have loads of interesting conversations going in the chat. I did note a few conditions people shared with us in their localities. It's been drizzling in San Diego. Seth says it's been like a week and a half.
San Diego.
Drizzle. ET down the Gulf Coast, more rain.
Course.
On and off. They're getting everyone's sick of the rain going like from west to east. It's like,
do you like this
who's
show?
spared from it really? It's been wet, huh, Jake?
Pretty much.
Everyone's
everywhere you go.
Complaining about it. But we got App Team. He says it's sunny and 78 in northern Colorado.
Yay.
He's got it good. It's cold and damp in Pennsylvania, according to Brad. And Robin in Massachusetts says expected snow is expected tomorrow, 1,200 feet sea level in central and western Mass.
Jeez.
So interesting to hear and see what people are going through. And people are laughing at you in the chat now about you and your diabetic
soda
problem.
Consumptions. And I know. What am I going to do when the GSM really kicks in, right? I mean,
he'll drink water.
It'll be water. Yep.
I've been telling people how well you have been. If people saw your struggle with diabetes 2 years ago,
yeah, that's true,
and compared it to now,
well, it'll be cured in the grand solar minimum.
You've come leaps and bounds. I'm
cured.
a good influence on you, I'd say.
Yes,
but anyway,
I would agree.
Hello to everyone in the chat. It has been an absolute pleasure. And when's our next show, Jake?
Hopefully Wednesday night.
Let's shoot for Wednesday.
9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll hopefully be talking about that CME impact on Earth at that point. Plus, I want to continue to see the development of this coronal hole that we saw earlier on the 193 angstrom. With that being said, folks, we are going to take off for the night. We really appreciate you tuning in to this Monday evening edition of the Grand Solar Minimum News Update. Until then, guys, we will talk soon.